America's Heartland is made possible by Farm Credit, financing agriculture and rural America since 1916. Farm Credit is cooperatively owned by America's farmers and ranchers. Learn more at farmcredit.com. The United Soybean Board, whose Common Ground program creates conversations to help consumers get the facts about farming and food. There's more at findourcommonground.com. The American Farm Bureau Foundation for Agriculture, dedicated to building greater awareness and understanding of agriculture through education and engagement. More information at agfoundation.org. The Fund for Agriculture Education, a fund created by KBIE to support America's Heartland programming. Contributors include the following.
Hi, I'm Sarah Gardner. Chances are your diet includes a lot more turkey and chicken these days, and consumers want to know more about where their food comes from. We'll take you to New Mexico to meet a man who has a passion about poultry.
Hi there, I'm Rob Stewart. When you think about alfalfa, you might think about those green sprouts you see on the salad bar. Well, this time we're taking you to Wyoming for a very different story on alfalfa. You'll meet a family where alfalfa plays an important role in diversifying their farm to stay successful.
I'm Sharon Vaknin. If you're ready to try something different, join us while we cook up something special with fish.
Hi, I'm Jason Schultz. What do the long-billed curlew, blackneck stilt, and great egret have in common with California rice farmers? Coming up, I'll tell you how changes in farming practices have given these birds a thriving habitat. It's all coming up on America's Heartland.
You can see it in the eyes of every woman and man in America's heartland, living close to the land. There's a love for the country and a pride in the brand. In America's heartland, living close to the land.
Any survey will show you that most of us are eating a lot more poultry these days. Turkey and chicken production is up dramatically from what it was 20 to 30 years ago, and that's offered farmers an opportunity to tap into growing in sometimes specific markets.
Tom Delahanty and his wife Tracy admit their method of raising poultry might be considered very unconventional. The day starts on their Pollo Real farm near Socorro by moving these unusual outdoor poultry shelters they call yurts. Inside each yurt are about 50 chickens, turkeys, or ducks being raised as part of the family's poultry production.
These are made out of rebar, chicken wire, they're hog rung together, and then we put heavy-duty 24 polywoven plastic on them, and with the lids. And it's like any protection for birds. You got to protect them from the elements, so, but you still want them the fresh air, sunshine, and access to the grains. You just want to protect them from animals too.
To some, this may seem like free-range poultry being raised in a pen, but Tom says there is a difference, especially since the birds are raised for 3 weeks longer than in conventional processing plants.
If you can put them into a model where they have the fresh air, sunshine, and continually move them every day on fresh greens, we've found that it's a wonderful detoxifier for a production bird.
Tom says his method is a give-and-take process. His poultry eats native plants as well as grain and then hyper-fertilizes the pasture they're on.
It's a great model of production. You just have to move physically these birds, and they will eat everything on the ground in one day, and you move them on and they fertilize your soil. It is a soil production model, absolutely.
You know, it's interesting as I'm standing here with how many birds do we have around us right now?
We have probably in this field 3,000 or 4,000.
And it is remarkably quiet.
And there's no odor.
And
there's no odor.
Tom moved to New Mexico some 20 years ago to establish his singular type of organic poultry production. He also maintains that a realistic approach to animal welfare demands that respect for the bird be part of the processing.
If you are responsible for life, no matter what it is, and you're responsible to take it all the way through the process and processing birds, it's really important that you need to understand you're all connected to this, and they need to be thought about in a manner that's respectful. So even at the end, you really have to, be considerate.
Tom's found success by marketing his pastured poultry to restaurants like the Los Poblanos Inn in nearby Albuquerque.
I think it's the freshness and the way he raises his birds. You know, it has a lot of flavor. He'll butcher tomorrow, or he butchers today, and then I'll get birds tomorrow. So that's like an optimal scenario for any kitchen, I would say.
Jonathan even creates a signature dish around Tom's birds.
It is a broth made with carrots and other vegetables and sourdough bread dumplings, and then we cream marinate the chicken 24 hours overnight with some salt, and then we take it out and we just pan roast it.
Locally grown is one of the benefits for small producers all across the country.
The closer you can get to your origin, the better. So, you know, the vegetables are coming from the field, or they're coming from another field maybe 2 miles away from me. And it's just everything is at an optimal point.
Are they all moved out into the field at the same age?
Well, the chickens usually go out about 3 weeks old, and the turkeys...
Tom has his own plans for expanding the farm and reaching other consumers who haven't yet tried his birds.
We're going to open up a full-scale butcher shop. So that's my vision for the next few years.
And he also hopes to provide a legacy, especially for his kids.
To some form or another, we're going to leave really luscious land for someone, you know, and hopefully it's our children or the community or whatever it is. It's going to produce healthy food for a long time, and I think that's all of our things in life. And if you can do that on a fairly big scale, you know, you can smile.
Ready for a big number? There are an estimated 25 billion chickens in the world. Chickens can fly a short distance, winging their way over a low fence or up into branches. They can also run. Chickens can speed along at about 9 miles an hour.
I'm sitting in this beautiful field of alfalfa. It's an important crop for farmers all across this heartland. Many of them use it to feed their cattle because it's very high in protein. Well, we found a farm family that is using alfalfa as an important building block for their farming operation.
Heard a while back, it's better to get better than it is to get bigger. It's kind of where we've gone.
Todd Fornstrom knows that agricultural success today demands attention to every aspect of farming, adjusting his crop rotation to ensure good yields, providing an adequate supply of foodstuffs for his feedlot operations, paying attention to market conditions to keep production profitable.
We try to stick with the forage crops. We grow corn for silage, alfalfa, and then to help with our rotations, we grow hard red winter wheat and dry edible beans, pinto beans.
Todd and his family run a diversified farming operation just outside the small town of Pine Bluffs, Wyoming. Key to their operation is 3 feedlots, handling cattle and sheep heading to market.
What we have behind me is the sheep feedlot. Its capacity is somewhere between 30 and 35,000 head. With the cattle, its capacity is between 2 and 2,500 head, depending on the size of the cattle.
Meeting the demand for a high-protein feed on that number of animals requires the family to keep an eye on the bottom line. In this case, growing alfalfa, harvesting the hay, and processing it into pellets.
They go straight into the feedlot. We pellet between 8,000 and 12,000 tons a year.
On this hot and sunny afternoon in July, Todd and his crew were finishing up their harvest on a field of alfalfa.
The better we crimp it, the quicker it dries. The quicker it dries, the quicker we get it off the field.
Once harvested, the alfalfa is hauled to a mill, part of a process that optimizes crop production to facilitate sustainable farming.
We try to harvest all of our own. We use our own crops, so we don't have a lot of transportation when it comes to our forage.
Providing the key elements of nourishment is an important factor in the approach to animal welfare taken by the Fornstroms. Their alfalfa pellets are just one part of a mixed diet served up to both sheep and cattle.
For us, it's survival in the ag business. It's doing more to capture more of the margins within the system. That's one of the reasons we've diversified, is the sheep feedlot and the cattle feedlot aren't always full at the same time, so it spreads out our labor.
Todd will tell you it's a labor of love that began with his grandfather, who raised potatoes on this land in the 1930s. When Todd's dad took over the farm, he began the extensive feedlot operations that exist today.
My grandfather and my grandmother both worked on the farm, and that's all they did. The amount of farm ground that he covered, I mean, one guy, it's a fraction of what one guy will cover now. I live in the same house I grew up in. It's a good place to raise kids. There's a lot of freedom out here. All the kids, they learn quite a bit, from anything from livestock to animals to farming.
As for the next generation, Todd hopes they enjoy farming just as much as he does.
I never really call it work. And most people ask me what I do for work. I don't work. I just enjoy being in agriculture, being in farming. All of it's fun.
Add alfalfa to the list of important crops in the history book. Greek and Roman legions fed their horses with alfalfa more than 2,000 years ago. Alfalfa's root system can reach down more than 24 feet, and the plant's blooms make it an excellent crop in honey production.
I'm Sharon Vaknin. If you're ready to try something different, join us while we cook up something special with fish.
I'm Jason Schultz. Still ahead, birding, bird watching, whatever you want to call it, it's a popular pastime for tens of thousands of folks. Still ahead, I'll take you to Northern California, where rice fields are a popular spot for birders.
Hi, I'm Paul Robbins, and here's something you may not have known about agriculture. You know, farmers and ranchers have been providing food for our dinner tables for thousands of years, but you really can't talk about the history of crops without mentioning salt. Now, it's not really a food, of course, but we do harvest salt to spice up our meals. Salt in small doses is essential for animal life, and it has a long history of being used as a preservative. But while we take that shaker of salt on our table for granted, that shiny mineral has a very spicy history. Dial back the time clock to prehistoric days, and some ancient communities got their salt by evaporating the mineral from salt-laden rivers and lakes. Salt miners later began digging up salt from underground deposits. Salt was in demand, not only for its flavor, but also for its ability to preserve foods by inhibiting the growth of bacteria. In the Middle Ages, salt was so expensive, it was referred to as white gold. Salt has been used in many ways throughout the ages, not only in food production and preservation, but also to make soap, glass, and in some types of chemical processes. And if you live in a snowy winter region, well, rock salt might be used to de-ice highways in your area. Now, some say that if you look closely at the painting of the Last Supper, you'll see that Judas has knocked the salt cellar over with his elbow. So, thanks to Judas, spilled salt is associated with treachery, and throwing a pinch of salt over your left shoulder is supposed to blind the devil waiting to cash in on your clumsiness. And I think I'll stick with pepper.
The demand for fish is growing in the U.S., and farmers are meeting those demands. Michael from Passmore Ranch is one of those farmers. So tell me a little bit about your fish farm.
Well, we have a small little boutique fish farm in Slough House, California, and we produce fish primarily for chefs.
So what kind of fish do you raise?
We do white sturgeon, we do this striped bass, we do some trout, and we do some black bass, some catfish, silver carp, we have some tanks, and then we have some lakes as well, and it's a recirculating system. I know the quality of my water. I know what I can feed my fish, so there are a lot of controls there that I really like as a consumer, and we eat the heck out of our fish as well.
Well, I'm excited to cook this bad boy. So today I'm making onion-crusted sturgeon fish tacos, and what are you making?
I found some vegetables, and we're gonna put a bed of them on there, and then I'm gonna whole roast this guy. We're gonna throw him in the oven over there, and keep it simple, keep it delicious.
Let's do it.
This is called the collar of a fish, basically.
Okay.
When you're breaking down a fish, if you have to get into it too hard, you're probably not in the right place.
You're doing it wrong. Okay.
Exactly. So now all we have is this beautiful fish.
Gorgeous.
Look at all that beautiful
Really
meat
gorgeous.
right there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna place it right here. Why don't you start on the corn right there? I want
right.
to go about just, yeah, like coins, so to speak.
How did you choose the vegetables? Just whatever is in season can go in this dish?
That's
do you
what I
recommend?
like to do.
Is there a difference in flavor between farmed fish and wild fish?
A lot of times the flavor seems to be dependent upon what they eat. The ranch-reared fishes are going to have a more uniform flavor.
What is the best way to pick a fish?
I like to pick a fish as close to the source as possible.
Okay.
The longer it has not been in transport, the better it's going to be. I think the largest part of it, though, when I'm selecting one, is I'm gonna pick it up. If I have any odor whatsoever, then that fish is not fresh. If the fish smells, walk away.
Okay.
Walk away from the nasty fish.
All right, so I'm putting this corn on the
we go.
pan.
So let's start filling in the edges.
Nice, make it rain.
Yeah, make it rain.
Okay.
All right, Sharon, let's get to stuffing this thing.
All right.
We're gonna use some of this dill, just kind of jam it in there.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna carefully put them in there, lay the fish on top of that. It infuses it with extra flavor.
Okay. Ooh, that looks good, Michael.
Nice, I think it's gonna be great. I wanna lance it here,
Okay.
because I wanna salt it, I wanna rub it with a little bit of this oil that I got,
right.
and just a little bit of these spices here.
Look at this restaurant status dish. All right, how do we cook it?
We're gonna go about 45 minutes to an hour
Okay.
at 350 in the oven. We're gonna want it nice and firm. You can look in those lances there, and as long as it has a nice, even color to it, it's gonna be ready.
Perfect, let's do it. So our fancy roasted fish is in the oven, and now we're gonna make one of my favorite weeknight dinners, fish tacos. So what I need from this sturgeon is a fillet.
We can do that.
All right, while you fillet that fish, I'm going to start on the crust because we're gonna onion crust this fish. So I have some fried onion that you can pick up at the supermarket. It comes in one of those canisters. I'm also going to throw in a couple cloves of peeled garlic, salt, pepper, and paprika. That's gonna add a nice color and a very delicate flavor. You can start crusting the fish.
Okay.
Just straight up pat the crust into that fish.
Pat the crust.
Just push it into the fish.
Okay.
So today we're gonna make a cilantro salsa. All right, we've got the juice of 3 limes, 1 jalapeno. We're adding an avocado to the salsa. That's gonna make it a little bit creamy. We'll add a couple green tomatoes, salt, garlic, give it a whirl. Look at that gorgeous salsa. Okay, let's get those in the frying pan.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Perfect.
All right, Michael, as soon as I'm done with these toppings, we'll be ready to eat.
All right.
I am so ready to eat. We have our striped bass and our fried sturgeon.
Look at that.
Beautiful. While you help yourself, I'll make you a taco.
Salud.
Cheers. These are amazing.
The fish is working in this, not for the crust only, but it's such a nice big bite, so it's not just falling apart.
I want to try your striped bass. Oh my gosh. That's restaurant quality perfection right there. It's buttery. I've got a little bit of that flavor in the vegetables. The dill really came through.
It's good fish.
Cheers to that.
Let's talk about Heart Healthy. Omega-3 fatty acids, good for your circulatory system, can be found in many varieties of fish. In addition, fish is thought to be beneficial in preventing some types of cancer and lessening the effects of depression.
Does productive farming have to compete with staying in harmony with the environment and wildlife? Well, here in Northern California, where rice fields stretch for miles, the answer is no. Changes in farming practices instituted by the farmers here have created a wildlife habitat that is literally for the birds.
We've seen the red-winged blackbird, tricolored blackbird, and we've seen night-crowned herrings, and we've seen snowy egret.
So much variety of stuff out here.
Birding is a family affair for the Sterlings. Natalia and her father are part of a group from California's Central Valley Bird Club.
It's really nice going out birding with him because I'm so busy, like with school and homework and activities and whatnot.
Southwest.
Right now, it's a really good habitat for a lot of ibis and egrets and herons and ducks, for not only for nesting, but also for foraging.
These beautiful birds aren't in a wildlife refuge today. They're flying around rice farmer Mike DeWitt's farm near Sacramento. California is the nation's second largest rice growing state. You'll find rice grown here used in sushi, exported overseas, and even used in the alcoholic beverage sake. 2,500 California farmers grow rice, mostly in the Sacramento Valley, and those rice fields sit in the Pacific Flyway, where birds fly south each winter.
Ever since I was 3 or 4 years old, driving around with my dad, he'd point out the birds, and I'd say, "What's that, Mike?" And I'd identify the bird. So it's just been a part of my life for 40 years now.
And how these rice fields are farmed has a big impact on the birds that use this area as a habitat. For decades, the leftover stubble in the fields was burned after harvest.
In the 70s and 80s, yes, every chance we got, we would burn the fields. The purpose of that is to remove the straw residue left behind by the harvesters, and also for disease control.
But to curb air pollution caused by the massive burns, legislation was passed restricting burning in the 1990s. Since then, farmers have turned to flooding their fields with water after harvest to break down the residue.
In the wintertime, with the winter flooding, on any given January day, there may be 400 or 500 ducks sitting here. They're wading in that water, eating the leftover seeds, weed seeds, and more or less mixing the straw and the mud together, which aids in the decomposition. We provide food and habitat for the birds, and they're doing a job for us.
And it's not just birds. Just under the rice plants, Mike finds a crawdad.
He's got a good grip on the rice here. He doesn't want to be picked up, that's for sure. But we'll get these in the fields by the thousands. And what happens is, this time of year, as we drain the water, these critters, they'll head for the deeper water. And this right here is just food for some heron.
Nearly 38 million people live in California, and with cities stretching out into rural areas, rice farmers have another reason to be mindful of the ecology.
It's another way of communicating with the public. We've provided this habitat, and the more we can get people out, the more we can get our message out to show people that rice is an environmentally friendly crop.
If we did not have rice farming right now, the only water that would be left in the Central Valley for birds would be restricted to sewage ponds, industrial wastewater ponds, and a few wildlife refuges that have water. Not all wildlife refuges and state wildlife areas in the valley have water in the summer, because it's very expensive, it's very difficult to get. So there's only very limited habitat. So with rice at this time of year, we have all this wetland, which wouldn't be here without rice.
Of course, rice farms are private property, so venturing out to look for birds without permission isn't recommended. But for the lucky birders who get an invitation to go birding on Mike DeWitt's rice farm, it's an opportunity not to be missed. That's going to do it for us. Thanks for traveling the country with us as we introduce you to such interesting people and places in America's heartland.
And remember, we want to stay in touch with you, and we make it easy for you. Just log on to our website, americasheartland.org, or follow us 24/7 on some of your favorite sites as well. We'll see you next time, right here on America's Heartland.
You can purchase a DVD or Blu-ray copy of this program. Here's the cost. To order, just visit us online or call 888-814-3923.
You can see it in the eyes of every woman and man in America's heartland, living close to the land. There's a love for the country and a pride in the brand in America's heartland, living close to the land.
America's Heartland is made possible by Farm Credit, financing agriculture and rural America since 1916. Farm Credit is cooperatively owned by America's farmers and ranchers. Learn more at farmcredit.com. The United Soybean Board, whose Common Ground program creates conversations to help consumers get the facts about farming and food. There's more at findourcommonground.com. The American Farm Bureau Foundation for Agriculture, dedicated to building greater awareness and understanding of agriculture through education and engagement. More information at agfoundation.org. The Fund for Agriculture Education, a fund created by KVIE to support America's Heartland programming. Contributors include the following: